The cost of IT in business can be staggering. From hardware and software expenses to services like internet and phone, you don't need to spend a fortune on IT to succeed. If your organization spends more than $500 monthly on any service, or you're considering signing a long-term contract, IT Enabled can help you manage your technology and minimize your costs. Contact us today to schedule a free consultation. IT Enabled, we're here to help.
Hi, I'm Tara Watson-Watkins, President and CEO of the Lufkin Angelina County Chamber of Commerce. Welcome to the Connect podcast, connecting business to the community. I'm here today with my co-host, Blake Polino with BP Media Group.
So in this episode, we talk with Lufkin Daily News about some awards that they've won recently, their journalistic process, and how they've been doing business in Lufkin for 115 years. So let's jump into that episode now.
Well, welcome to the podcast. We're glad to have both of you on.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, absolutely. Why don't you give a little bit of your background history, and then we'll talk about the paper and then all the awards. So, Jackie, you want to start?
Background history. Well, the Lufkin Daily News is 115 years old, so we're really excited about that. We have a great reporting team. We have a great staff. Let me just start there. There are nearly 40 people that work at the Lufkin Daily News, from the front desk where you'll see customer service and stuff, through advertising, our newsroom, our business office. We have an IT person on staff or two. We also have then the press room and the mail room that once they produce the paper, they get it printed and out the door. So it is a huge team effort.
That's great. Jess, where's home for you?
From Northern Utah.
Okay.
So that's after I graduated from Northern Arizona University. I went back home and worked in marketing for about a year before I decided I wanted to be a journalist and not in marketing.
And how'd you get to Lufkin?
This human called Jeff decided to call me and say, hey, we have an opening and we need somebody. Can you please come? And I was like, yeah, okay. Where's Lufkin? I have no idea anything about it. The first thing he asked, too, after submitting the application is, what do you know about Lufkin? The answer was absolutely nothing. I Googled it.
And how long have you been here?
Actually, April 16th marked 4 years.
Yeah, I was thinking about 4.
Yeah.
That's great.
So
great. Well, we're excited. As most of you know, about 2 or 3 weeks ago, the paper won a lot of awards. And so we wanted to have you on, first of all, to congratulate you for all your hard work. It's always nice when hard work pays off.
Right.
And so these are awards that are actually from the NETPA. We had 32 papers that were competing for all of these awards.
Right.
So let's let the public know about who is in the NETPA and how do you go about submitting things for the awards.
So the NETPA is the Northeast Texas Press Association, and in it, the Lufkin Daily News competed against 32 other papers of about a similar size.
Okay.
And so about in January, Jeff starts asking us what stories we liked the best, which ones we were the most proud of, and which ones we think will do well. And we have to get him a list, and that is stressful in and of itself.
Yeah.
But then he goes through and he has the extra stressful part of putting all of our ideas together and writing letters and explaining why these stories were important or why the way that these pages were designed was unique or done really well.
So do you keep a running list all year of things that you write after it comes out?
Every year we say we're going to do that, and then every year we never do.
So you have to go back through things that you've written, page layouts, different designs, and select things that you think are the best. So like maybe the best stuff that you put out the year before. Is that kind of how it works?
Yeah, actually my process is I will usually pick one day, probably a Monday, and then I'll spend the next couple of hours and go through everything I wrote that's on the website and then just pull from there, because sometimes I don't remember, when there's certain things. So
how much is that normally? So how many articles are you usually writing a year or a month or a week? So how big of a workload are you having to go through and look at?
Kaylee and I probably write between about 15 and 25 stories a week. 25 is on the busier end when there's a lot going on, and then 15 is closer to just 2 a day. Okay. 2 a day stories are those are good days. Those are easy days.
So it's in the hundreds of pieces that you're going through to try to find what you want to submit for this, right?
Yeah.
Awesome.
And sometimes you don't remember. You come up on it, you're like, did I really write that? And then you read it and you're like, oh God, did I really write that? So
That's great. So let's talk about some of the awards that you won.
So I won first for Journalist of the Year.
Congratulations.
Congrats.
Thanks. That was unexpected, but I'm grateful for it. So for that particular part, it was for 5 stories that I had worked on through the year. One is the story about PA Prospect, which is an oil and gas waste facility that they were trying to build a facility in the headwaters of Sam Rayburn in the Chinkapin community. And that's about an hour north of us. It's kind of out of the way, but it directly impacts our community. I mean, if something happened to Sam Rayburn, how much of our economy is based around bass fishing or people coming here for tourism to see our reservoir?
Sure.
That's big, but it turned into the story, talking to these community members. And I think it's really interesting to hear. I mean, it's kind of a David and Goliath type fight.
Yeah.
So that's the company ultimately requested to have its application withdrawn, which was a small win at the very least. So the other stories were like for Jefferson Enterprise Energy, the agri-pulp mill that's coming into Lufkin. That's work by Bob Sanford, and he helped me to get connected with this company. And it is really, really interesting. If you guys haven't heard too much about it, I mean, basically what they're trying to do is come in and disrupt the plastics industry. And they've chosen Lufkin to do this, which is, that's huge. Because, if we see that actually be successful, if we see them do that, then we could be a city that is on the front of, greener, cleaner production.
That'd be fantastic.
Right.
Yeah.
We want those jobs here.
Mm-hmm.
Those are good things here. And then the other story was talking about the backlog of criminal cases within our criminal justice system. And that one was difficult. Jeff could probably tell you I woke up with headaches more often than not trying to get that one done. And then for my story about the violation of the Open Meetings Act, allegations with our now suspended county judge and 2 of the commissioners. And then the last one is the story I wrote about the former Gulf Park, which I don't know if you guys know this. About 2 decades ago, there was a lot of stress, a lot of frustration because of a benzene pipeline that hadn't been removed, that had been potentially been leaking throughout most of our community. And in the last year or 2, new houses have been built on the Gulf Park, which have been closed because of that benzene situation. And so the story looked in to see, have the properties been cleaned up? Are they safe to be building on? Can people live there safely? And that one taught me a lot, because I went in and I'm like, I'm going to be an environmental journalist, Aaron Brockovich, and it turns out they had actually, as far as we can tell, done everything that they needed to do,
Right.
And so it taught me a lesson about, checking my biases at the door and making sure that I'm accurate, that it's more important that I'm right than that I think I'm right.
Right. That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, Jackie, I know you're proud.
I am very, very proud.
Yeah.
And Jess works really hard. And she does. She works really hard, because it is sometimes difficult to check your biases at the door. But that is one of the big pushes as we edit the stories. Because sometimes it's easy to sneak in when you get so deeply involved in a story. The PA Prospect story is one of those. And you start talking to the community and you get with them and you build this relationship. And you want to see these happen, but it's still important that we maintain that professional and front, and that we're writing what's accurate and appropriate, and so that our community knows everything that's going on both sides. It has to be fair and balanced, and that's our key.
Yeah.
And Jess is really good at that. And as she goes, she's learned so much in these last 4 years, and she's grown a lot. And this is obvious that her peers see her growth.
Yeah. I think when you win things like this and you know that it's peer based, it means more than anything.
Yeah.
You know?
So tell us a little bit about, so I'm sure it's different for each of these, but how long are these stories taking? So I'm sure there's a lot of investigation on your part, a lot of writing, a lot of, interviewing and following up. What does that look like? I'm sure it's different for each of them, but how long does it typically take to unfold some of these?
The Gulf Park one took upward of 6 months.
Okay.
Wow.
But the Jefferson Enterprise Energy one, I think the one that we wrote or that we submitted that day, or the story that we submitted on Jefferson, that one took me maybe 2 days to get. But that's Jefferson's very communicative, and their staff works really hard to make sure that we can have the information that we want. The backlog on crime, it took about a month and a half. The Open Meetings Act story took maybe 6 or 8 hours.
Yeah, because you were on a timeline on that.
Yeah. So it really does kind of depend. It varies.
So is it safe to say you're juggling a lot of these multiple stories at one time? Because you'll have one that may take 6 months and the one that you may have hours to come up with a story on. Are you doing a lot of these all at one time?
Yeah. Actually, I have a nice long to-do list. I guess it doesn't look as long today. It will once I add in some of the other stories. But I'm working on a story about the expansion of this creosote company in Homer currently, and I've been working on that one since I think it was since January, and I'm hoping that one will be coming out soon. But that's another one of those environmental ones that you need to take the time and make sure that you are doing it right, that what you're putting in is accurate. Yeah,
that seems to be a common thread in a lot of your stories. There's a really big through line of environmental impacts and manufacturing. Is that just
it's
from
what
an
I want to
interest
be
of
when
yours?
I grow up.
Is it just from an interest of yours? I mean, I'm sure it's always really, really interesting stories, but is that just something that you're always interested in, or?
Yeah, absolutely. You look back to Erin Brockovich or those types of things. You know, when I was in college, I had the wonderful opportunity of taking a course under, and I am blanking on her name right now because that's about how my life goes. But she was one of the forerunners in Arizona for environmental reporting. And she ended up marrying the chieftain of the tribe that's right in there. I think that's, I don't ask me names on stuff. I don't have it written down. But she got me really interested in it. And our course was very much so focused on these people that had managed to make significant changes in the way industry works and the way our communities operate because of the environmental reporting that they did. They are the reason why we know there are so many things to be concerned about and what changes we can make.
Yeah.
And so she was really formative with that. And I didn't know that I would care until I met her and went through that course. And it was just, it's like, if there's a change that you can make that just benefits people, that's one I would like to be a part of.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
You
That's
talk
great.
about change being made, and Jackie alluded to earlier, you want the reporting to always be to be fair and balanced in the way that you report it. But a lot of times change does happen because of this reporting. So how do you feel about that when you're writing and change does end up happening? Is that what you're always going for? Or do you want to just present it in a way that allows it to change? Or what's your philosophy on that?
It's always interesting to see when your writing makes an impact. And sometimes it leaves you spending your entire night awake thinking, crap, what have I done?
Right.
And then sometimes you're like, okay, this is what needed to happen. And, all of it. And I have to go back and remind myself. And sometimes I have to go back and read my stories. Are the changes that are being made consistent with the information that was given, or was there something that I potentially gave that changed it in a negative way? And usually I can come back and say, no, I feel confident, that at least if there was a change, that it was out of a place of understanding. But it's terrifying.
Sure. I can only imagine.
Yeah. Very stressful. Very stressful. Well, I know that the other awards were given.
Yes.
So let's talk about that. Let's brag on your cohort.
Oh my gosh, I'm so proud of them. So Joel Andrews, he returned to the paper in 2020, and I adore that man. He is so good at what he does, and he keeps a lot of us in the newsroom straight and steady.
Yeah.
And I guess that makes sense. He has a straight and steady hand.
That's right.
So he took first place for feature photos. These two absolutely adorable images, which I think we're going to be including in the show. Yeah, one of them is of a little boy at the spray and play at Chambers Park. And then the other is a little girl reading under a desk, I believe, at the Temple Library.
Okay.
And they're very cute, and it's fun to watch him with kids too, because he's this older, kind of grouchy looking dude. But
He's so quiet.
It's very quiet.
He is so
Yes.
quiet, you know, but I don't ever remember Joel not being at the paper. I mean, Joel's been there a long time.
He has been. This is his second
come back. Yeah.
comeback,
Yeah.
but he is so adept at news photography and seeing the right kind of photos, and and the community oriented photos, because that's what we are as a community paper.
That's
and
right.
He is really good at it. And this is a man who, he and his wife don't have children, but he is so good with them.
Yeah,
He's amazing.
that's great. That's great.
Beyond Joel, our editor Jeff Pownall won first place for his editorials.
Great.
And that's fantastic. I know one of them was talking about the ambulances and how long it took the communities to sort of decide what they're going to do about the ambulance situation after the city of Lufkin decided to stop servicing
Right.
the rest of the county. And then what was the other?
For those of you who can't see, Jeff's sitting behind all of us, and he doesn't like to be on camera, but he's telling everybody what to say.
So one of them was on how long it took for the community to establish ambulance services after the city of Lufkin decided they were no longer servicing Angelina County as a whole. And then the other is on the court case backlogs.
Yeah.
So that is absolutely fabulous. But he writes a lot of editorials all the time. I don't know how he does it.
He's opinionated.
He is. He reads all of our stories and then he's like, I have thoughts and feelings.
Let's talk about these stories.
Yeah. And then our advertising team, actually, which I think this is very cool. They took first for the ads that they designed in our paper.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't realize that if you want to have an ad in the paper, you don't have to have an outside marketing team make it, that you have an in-house team that can create ads for them.
An
We do.
award-winning.
That's right.
in-house
Award-winning
team.
That's
in-house
right.
team. That's right.
That's right.
Absolutely. We have three. We have Lance, who designs Charm.
Mhm.
And ads like that. And then we also have Megan and Robin, who design the bulk of the ads that show up in the paper.
That's right. And Megan helps us with our
Online.
Connect magazine. Yeah.
Yes.
We
And
love
it
working with your
always
team.
looks good. She does a good job.
That's
And
great.
You guys make a great team. Appreciate
That's
it.
great. Oh, we appreciate y'all. Thank you.
Beyond that, page design, our editors, Jeff, Stacy Faiston, and Josh Havard won first place for page design for sports, front page, editorial, and I think community features. And that's, I think, fantastic. And then I am very proud of this one is Kaylee. She's a relatively new reporter. Kaylee Fraze won her first award.
That's
ever.
great.
Yeah, this was her
Congrats.
first contest. She hasn't even been here a year. She took fourth for her feature story writing,
That's
which is
great.
fabulous.
Yeah, that's
You know,
awesome. Well,
that's
you've got
very
an
exciting.
award-winning team that
We
you
do.
need to brag on.
I know we do, and I'm just amazing. It's just amazing to me to be associated with this group. And I've been there almost a year and a half now, and
Yeah.
and I'm amazed every day at the product we put out. I mean, whether it's in print or if it's online, the stories are still out there. Jess is out there putting those stories online. I mean, that's where this award story, after they were won, we didn't have a print issue that day, but Stacy puts them out online. So
That's
there's
right.
always it's there, and they are driven every day to make this community a better place and get the information out.
Well, we love to be able to brag on our own team and our own people. And so we're so excited for all the awards that you've done, for all your hard work paying off. And we love being able to help shout from the rooftops when good things happen to Lufkin and Angelina County. So we're proud to have y'all on today. Thank you.
Yeah, thank
Thank
you
you.
for having
Yeah.
us.
Yeah.
We
Of course.
appreciate it.
Truly appreciate your time. One of our favorite things on the podcast is to let people know about genuinely awesome things happening in this community. So we appreciate you coming on and sharing what you do and how great all of that's gone for you. So thank you so much for listening to the podcast again this week. We truly appreciate you listening and tuning in. We're just blown away by the support that this podcast receives every week. And we want to thank you so much for doing that, for being a part of that. please let somebody know about the podcast. If there's somebody that you know that listens to podcasts and would be interested in this type of thing, share this with them. There's usually a share button wherever you're listening to this. And if you want to watch the video version of this podcast, it's available on the Chamber Facebook page and on the Chamber YouTube page. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next week.